Where is our leader at this time? At this time when our country is down on its knees.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson didn't hold back, calling out Donald Trump in a fiery speech that shook the internet. His words hit hard, demanding leadership while the nation was in crisis. Supporters cheered, critics raged, and Trump's furious reaction only added fuel to the fire. When a Hollywood icon takes on a president, who wins?
George Floyd, and they're using a lot of other people to try and do some bad things. And what we do, and we have it totally under control, but you have...
In early June 2020, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, a figure many admire for his charisma and strength, took to social media with a heartfelt message that resonated deeply across the nation. Amid the turmoil following George Floyd's tragic death, Johnson's voice emerged, not from a movie script, but from genuine concern and empathy.
Where is our leader? Where are you?
In his impassioned speech, Johnson repeatedly posed the poignant question, "Where are you? Where is our leader?" This wasn't just a rhetorical device, it was a genuine plea for guidance during a period when the nation seemed adrift. As protests erupted in cities nationwide, people were not only expressing their grief and anger, but also seeking direction and hope from those in positions of power.
Where is our compassionate leader who's going to step up to our country, who's down on its knees and extend a hand and say, "You stand up"?
Johnson's call wasn't merely for any leadership, but for compassionate leadership. He envisioned a leader who would step up to our country, who's down on its knees and extend a hand and say, "You stand up. Stand up with me because I got you." This imagery of unity and support highlighted the kind of empathy many felt was missing at the highest levels of government. In times of collective pain, the need for leaders to acknowledge and share in the public's anguish becomes paramount.
We must say the words, "Black Lives Matter."
A significant aspect of Johnson's message was his unequivocal support for the Black Lives Matter movement. He emphasized that while all lives matter, the immediate need was to address the systemic inequalities faced by Black communities. By stating, "We must say the words Black Lives Matter," Johnson underscored the importance of focusing on those disproportionately affected by racial injustice. This distinction is crucial, acknowledging the specific struggles of a community. Doesn't negate the value of others, but brings attention to where it's most urgently needed.
When you say to them, "I care about you," when you say to them, "I'm listening to you," you'd be surprised how people would respond, how Americans would respond.
True leadership, as Johnson articulated, involves more than authority. It requires responsibility and the courage to foster change. He expressed frustration over the deployment of military force against protesters, suggesting that a more effective approach would be for leaders to say, "I care about you. I am listening to you." Such statements can transform public sentiment, turning despair into hope and division into unity.
The leaders we're looking for. We become our own leaders. Because we're doing it now. We're doing it now.
Johnson's message wasn't just a critique, but also a rallying cry for collective action. In the absence of the leadership he yearned for, he urged individuals to become the leaders we're looking for. This call to personal responsibility resonated with many, emphasizing that change often starts from the ground up. By standing together and supporting one another, communities can drive the transformation they wish to see. In essence, Johnson's speech was a heartfelt appeal for empathy, unity, and proactive leadership. It served as a reminder that in challenging times, the voices of compassion and reason can guide us toward a more just and equitable society. To understand the gravity of Dwayne Johnson's message, it's essential to grasp the context in which he spoke. The period leading up to his address was marked by significant social and political unrest, setting the stage for his heartfelt plea.
Minneapolis was disgraceful when I watched that. When I saw cops fleeing a precinct, there's no reason in a million years that should have been done. And we took that mess, that was a total mess.
In late May 2020, the world was shaken by the harrowing footage of George Floyd, an African-American man dying under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer. This incident wasn't isolated. It was a stark reminder of the systemic racial injustices that had plagued the United States for centuries. The visceral nature of the video ignited a powder keg of emotions, leading to widespread protests not only across the nation, but around the globe. These demonstrations, while largely peaceful, were a manifestation of collective grief, anger, and a desperate demand for change. Protesters chanted "Black Lives Matter," a movement that had been gaining momentum since the early 2010s, but now found renewed urgency. The streets became a tapestry of voices unified against racial inequality and police brutality. Amid this backdrop, the response from the nation's leadership was, to many, disheartening. President Donald Trump's approach was perceived as combative rather than conciliatory. His emphasis on law and order, coupled with threats to deploy military forces against protesters, seemed to many as prioritizing control over compassion. Statements like, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts," were seen as exacerbating tensions rather than healing wounds. This atmosphere of unrest and the perceived absence of empathetic leadership created a vacuum. In such times, society often looks to influential figures outside of traditional political spheres for guidance and solace. Celebrities, with their vast platforms, began to play a pivotal role in shaping public discourse. Their voices, amplified by social media, reached millions, offering perspectives that resonated on a personal level. Dwayne Johnson, known for his relatability and genuine persona, found himself at this crossroads. Historically apolitical, his decision to speak out was significant. It signaled a shift where remaining silent was no longer an option for those with the power to influence. By addressing the nation, Johnson wasn't just adding his voice to the chorus, but was stepping into a role many felt was vacated by traditional leaders. His message encapsulated the collective yearning for unity, understanding, and actionable change. By asking, "Where are you? Where is our leader?" Johnson articulated a sentiment felt by countless individuals, a desire for leadership that listens, empathizes, and acts with the people's best interests at heart. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's speech was one of the most talked about moments during the summer of 2020. His powerful words resonated with millions of people who were demanding change and leadership during a time of crisis. But one of the biggest questions that came out of his speech was how Donald Trump would react. Many expected him to fire back immediately due to his history of engaging in public disputes. However, his reaction was different from what people had come to expect.
Law and order, we need it all, but we do need healing. We need safety in our cities, and when they don't take care of it, we took care of it in Washington, D.C. I said,
Trump did not respond directly to Johnson's video. This was unusual for a president who was known for clapping back at critics, especially celebrities. Instead of addressing The Rock's call for leadership, he continued to focus on his usual message about law and order. His social media posts during that time were filled with strong words against protesters, particularly those who were involved in looting and rioting. He called for stronger police action and even suggested using the military to restore order. He dismissed much of the unrest as being caused by what he called thugs and radical leftists, doubling down on his stance rather than engaging in a discussion about racial injustice and police reform. While Trump's silence on The Rock's speech might seem surprising, it followed a familiar pattern. He often ignored criticism from those who weren't directly in politics, especially when it came from celebrities with large followings. Engaging with The Rock would have brought even more attention to the video, making it an even bigger news story. Instead, Trump focused on the protesters and his political messaging. He used the moment to rally his base, reassuring them that he was standing for law and order, while also criticizing the media and political opponents for what he claimed was their failure to control the situation. Trump had a long history of public feuds with celebrities, but he typically picked battles where he felt he had an advantage. Whether it was attacking athletes like Colin Kaepernick, musicians like Taylor Swift, or actors like Robert De Niro, he usually chose to respond when he believed his supporters would rally behind him. In this case, taking on The Rock, one of the most universally liked public figures, might not have been a smart move. The Rock's message wasn't partisan, it was about leadership, unity, and empathy. Directly attacking him could have backfired. While Trump didn't acknowledge The Rock's message, his overall handling of the protests was widely criticized. Many Americans felt that his response lacked compassion and that he focused too much on controlling protests rather than addressing the deeper issues of racial injustice and systemic problems. His use of military force in certain areas and his infamous photo op with a Bible in front of a church after police cleared protesters only added to the controversy. When Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson released his heartfelt video in June 2020, it was like lighting a match in a room filled with gasoline. The nation was already on edge following the tragic death of George Floyd, and Johnson's impassioned plea for leadership struck a chord with many. Almost immediately, social media platforms buzzed with activity. Hashtags like #TheRockSpeaks and "Where Are You" trended on Twitter, while clips of his speech flooded Facebook and Instagram feeds. It was clear that his message resonated deeply with a vast audience. Support poured in from fans and fellow celebrities alike. Many praised Johnson for using his platform to address such pressing issues. Comments highlighted his courage and the authenticity of his words. People appreciated that he wasn't just another celebrity offering empty platitudes, but was genuinely calling for change and accountability. His repeated question, "Where are you? Where is our leader?" became a rallying cry for those feeling a void in national leadership. However, not everyone was on board. Critics accused Johnson of overstepping his bounds, suggesting that entertainers should stick to their crafts and avoid delving into politics. Some felt that his comments were a direct attack on then-President Donald Trump, leading to debates about the role of celebrities in political discourse. These detractors argued that Johnson's influence should be confined to the entertainment sphere, fearing that his words might further polarize an already divided nation. Major news outlets quickly picked up on the buzz. CNN ran an article titled "The Rock Just Gave a More Presidential Speech Than Trump," highlighting the contrast between Johnson's empathetic tone and the president's more combative approach. The piece suggested that Johnson's words filled a leadership void felt by many Americans. Other media outlets debated whether his speech was a bold stand for justice or merely another instance of celebrity grandstanding. Discussions on talk shows and opinion columns dissected his motives, with some lauding his bravery and others questioning his qualifications to speak on such matters. The impact of Johnson's message wasn't confined to the United States. Internationally, his speech garnered significant attention. Supporters from around the globe shared translations and voiced their solidarity. In countries grappling with their issues of racial injustice, Johnson's words served as a universal call for compassionate leadership. The global traction of his message underscored the pervasive nature of the issues he addressed and highlighted the power of a unified call for change. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.